Teresa. People are often unreasonable and self-centered. Forgive them anyway. If you are kind, people may accuse you of ulterior motives. Be kind anyway. If you are honest, people may cheat you. Be honest anyway. If you find happiness, people may be jealous. Be happy anyway. The good you do today may be forgotten tomorrow. Do good anyway. Give the world the best you have, and it may never be enough. Give your best anyway. For you see, in the end, it is between you and God. It was never between you and them anyway. Mother Teresa.
All right. Thanks. Start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, I'd like to welcome everyone here tonight. We'll start with the approval of the minutes from the March 4th meeting.
I'll make a motion that the minutes be approved as submitted.
I'll second it.
Further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, thank you. Again, I'd like to welcome all our visitors tonight. We'll move into reports, oral and written communications. We'll start with David Finley from Lake City Bank. I've asked David to come and talk a little bit about a lot of the goings-on in the downtown with Lake City Bank. They're doing a lot of work, and I'll let him, I won't steal his thunder, but I think it's really important to understand their commitment to our downtown and kind of give you a little bit of a tour. I actually went on a tour with him a few weeks ago and was amazed at the square footage of buildings that are being redone downtown for all the various functions of the bank. The bank obviously being the headquarters, administrative headquarters of Lake City Bank right here in downtown Warsaw. And I've asked David to come kind of give us an update. I think you were here a few years ago, and appreciate your time.
Thank you, Joe. Actually, not a few years ago, about 8 months ago, I think I was here with the City Council. And this slide was a different slide when I gave that presentation. And I'm going to pause a second because when I was here last year, it was to talk about our hope that we could vacate the alleyways behind and to the east and the south of our buildings. And the City Council, thankfully, and we appreciatively approved that. And rather than talk about it at a Lake City Bank presentation, I really started this by saying this is a 147-year partnership that Lake City Bank has had with the City of Warsaw. There's probably not that many employers in this town that can come in and say, for 147 years, we've been growing in Warsaw, Indiana. And we're pretty proud of the fact that we've been doing that. There's also something in our industry that not everybody is probably very well aware of, but there are not a lot of banks that are 147 years old that can say the name that's on the door today is the same one was on the door when we opened our doors 147 years ago. We've seen a lot of sign changes in our industry, and it's a big deal that a bank like ours can stay independent and stay committed to that independence as long as we have and also in the future. So what I want to do is bring you up to speed with what's been happening downtown, as Joe indicated, and share with you some of the progress we've made, particularly over the last couple of years. Now I only got to find which button to push on there. There we go. Here's our capital commitment to Warsaw. And these are all projects that have taken place and will have been completed in 2017, 2018, or finalized in 2019. And we didn't do this last year when I was in to talk about the business, but I think it's important that the City Council and the community understand our commitment to Warsaw. We've spent a total of $8.7 million in Warsaw in the past 3.5 years. Of that, $3.4 million went to our main office remodel at 202 East Center Street. You might recall that building was not a very attractive 1950s, 1960s architecture, and you'll see a new picture of that. Our People Development Center directly across the street, we spent just in its remodel a couple years ago, $552,000. The Consumer and Home Loan Building, again, directly across the street here. Everybody in this room will remember when we opened this building, you looked across the street at a dilapidated, worn-out old flower shop. We bought that, gutted it, renovated it. Actually, the only thing that was left when we were doing the renovation were was the dirt floor and the north wall and the south wall. We took it down to everything and rebuilt the entire building. Our Lakeland Financial Building on Market Street, which was the newest of the Klein's department stores, but we've had it for over 20 years. We spent $835,000 on that in the last few years. The CenturyLink building, we don't own that building, but we occupy the entire third floor, about 7,500 square feet, and we have an option on the second floor as well for our future growth, and we spent nearly $750,000 on that in the remodel of 2018 and 2019. Our operations building, the oldest of the two Klein department stores downtown, we've spent $1.3 million on that building and its renovation over the last 3 years. And then finally, something I didn't even talk about when I was here last time is we've remodeled, by the end of 2020, we will have remodeled every one of our 50 offices or built them new up to our current Lake City Bank standards. And of that, 2 of those were in Warsaw. Warsaw West, which if you're on that side of town, you can see that building has taken on a whole new facade in an area of town that needs the commitment and the capital we've made. And then the Warsaw East office as well. The Warsaw North office, believe it or not, which is the newest office in Warsaw, we've remodeled already across from Lakeside Chevrolet there. And we'll do Warsaw East next year, which is out on the east side of town. So I'll take you on a quick tour of our buildings downtown to show you what we've done with the $8.7 million. The main office, everybody hopefully knows. What you see in this picture on the retail side in the bottom right-hand corner, if you walked into any one of our 50 offices, that's what it would look like. We've modernized it. We've got a brand identity that is consistent across all 50 of the branches in the system. A lot of banks wouldn't come back to their oldest offices like we have and reinvested in them to make them current with the brand standards. But we don't take advantage of any community we're in. We don't take it for granted, and we think we need to continue these reinvestments. This is our boardroom on the left-hand side of this. Really, it's far more than a boardroom. Our board only meets 8 times a year, but this is a room that is used by people in the community day in and day out, in the bank day in and day out. We hosted a United Way meeting there of CEOs and business leaders 2 weeks ago with 20 people from the market. And then it looks boring in this picture, but the bottom right-hand side is reflective of what every office in our entire remodeled downtown footprint looks like. Again, current standards, current furniture, current fixtures. Another place that most of you will never see, we call our basements lower levels around here. So the lower level of the main office is where our finance and treasury teams work. And again, lower level is remodeled to the current standards that we had system-wide. If you jump across the street to the People Development Center, that's the building that our Lake City University is in. There's a reason the sign for Lake City University is bigger than the People Development Center, because we have people travel through there throughout the year for training and development, not just how to be a teller. On the bottom right-hand side, you can see is a simulated branch. But every single teller and every single CSR that comes through our system comes into that building, trains, and spends part of the first week of their career here. We've also got 2 technology rooms and 3 other training rooms in there. And as I point out here, we'll have over 1,000 people attend class in that building, and the great majority of them will come from outside Warsaw. I know they sometimes create parking problems downtown because nobody seems to have enough parking, but we try to encourage them to park off meter, if you will, in the areas of town where you can park free and not have the 2-hour limit. And they also park in one of the 5 Lake City Bank parking lots we have downtown. Again, I'm not here for an economic development pitch, but these people eat, they stay in hotels, and they spend money in Warsaw. So they're part of the economic engine of Lake City Bank in the market. the personal and home loan building, strangely, even though it's that narrow little former florist shop across the street, it's probably the one that I take the greatest pride in downtown, because we took a building with a literal dirt floor in the basement, walls on the north and south side crumbling, a roof that, unbeknownst to us, had been subject to a pretty significant fire at some point in the past, and we stripped it down to next to nothing to rebuild it into what is really the headquarters for our consumer and retail lending group. As with everything else we've done, we do it to the standards of a new branch we'd build anywhere in the system. The Operations Center, this is the oldest of the two Kleins that we occupy on the north side of East Market Street. What you see on the left-hand side is and what you saw as a common theme in all these conference rooms is televisions that connect every one of our offices with each other. We have video conferencing capabilities that connect every market we operate in with every other market we operate in and the main office. And on the right-hand side is our deposit operations group. And this is what that entire building would look like if you'd walk through it. There isn't a piece of furniture in that building now that isn't newer than 2 years old. And that's part of the investment that I haven't even really quantified here. The $8.7 million you saw doesn't include any furniture, fixtures, and equipment. And if you take that into consideration, we've probably spent another $500,000 to $750,000 on that. And the goal isn't to have the prettiest and fanciest buildings in downtown Warsaw, but it's to create an environment for the team at Lake City Bank that they're proud of, the community can be proud of, and that is a statement of our commitment to the long-term future, not the short-term future. This is probably my second most proud area of the bank. This is the lower level of the Operations Center, again, on the north side of Market Street. We've taken what was a dark, drab item processing area and converted it into I call it a reverse loft. It's as opposed to being on the top of the building, it's on the bottom, but it's fully furnished with all new furniture. We gutted again the entire building. On the left-hand side, you can see the break room, and this is a place that had 7-foot ceilings a year ago. We ripped out the ceilings, went up, not down, and made it into an incredibly workable place for our one call center. That one call center has over 30 people that work in it that answer the phones 6 days a week, more than about 56 hours a week, that are taking care of clients of Lake City Bank throughout our 50 offices in our 15 counties, again, based right here in Warsaw. The Lakeland Financial Building across the street on the newest Kleins on the north side of the market, East Market Street. Even though we had remodeled that building about a decade ago, we spent another $835,000 on it in the last year and a half or so to bring it up to the current standards as well. Nearly every building I've shown you, except for the main office and the personal and home loan building across the street here, is support and administrative offices. They're not client contact areas, but we still put them up to a standard that fits with the retail offices as well. And then the pictures don't do this justice, but when we walked into the CenturyLink building 5 years ago, it was the place that time had stood still. Every desk from the former Sprint staff that had been in there and all its successors, the desks were there, the calendars were on their desks, file cabinets were full, and it was as if the people just walked out and came into work one day and walked out that next day and were gone. We ripped that down to the studs. Our technology group is up there. Our client protection services group is up there. And it is an incredibly upgraded area where nobody worked 3 years ago, and today we've got about 45 professionals up there in this type of working space. Our long-term commitment to Warsaw, I've already said a lot of this, but Warsaw means something to Lake City Bank, and hopefully Lake City Bank means something to Warsaw. We take our commitment to the community very seriously here. We do that very seriously everywhere we operate, but nowhere is it more true than here, where we've got 235 employees in these 7 downtown offices, 26 employees in our 5 additional branches. So we've got about 270 people that live and work in Warsaw, Indiana, out of our 600. Another statistic that, when I was here last year, I talked about the fact that we just kind of put our heads down and do our jobs. And we don't talk about this, but there are almost 5,000 banks in the country, and of those 5,000 banks, we're the 225th largest. And that gives you a sense of how strange our industry is today. A lot of big banks, a lot of small banks, and not many like us in between at $5 billion that can take care of the community still, but also take care of their bigger commercial customers. Oops, I lost my most important slide. Again, we never talk about this in Warsaw. We talk about with our investors all the time. This is a slide that shows if you'd put $1 in Lakeland Financial back in 2000, that dollar, considering total return with dividends and stock price appreciation, would be worth $1,597 today. I joined the bank in 2000, and I wish I'd put more dollars into Lakeland Financial at the time. I might not even be standing here if I had. But you can see relative to other peers, this is when we are out in New York and Boston, and next week we'll be in San Francisco and Portland talking about the Lake City Bank story. This is the slide we show people. Here's what a little bank in Warsaw, Indiana can do for its shareholders. And I think I'd be remiss if I didn't start with or end with what I started, the idea of a partnership. And it's very unique for me. I know the police officers aren't here to hear the Lake City Bank presentation, but I suspect every one of them at some point has worked in a Lake City Bank branch. And we partner with law enforcement in every single community we operate in. We work with law enforcement to come in and help us protect our clients, protect our employees, and give it a very comfortable and safe environment, and it's a great connection to the community. So since you guys are here, not to see my presentation, I want to thank you for what you do for the bank and what you do for all of us here in Warsaw. And I'd say the same thing for the City Council. In the spirit of Diane, of your invocation, happiness and thanks matters immensely. And what the City Council did for us with the small little issue of vacation of that parking lot, and the alleys to allow us to make the parking lot, it's made me very happy. Because even though it may not look as much like a park right now as it will in the summer, that investment in that parking lot is something that we're very proud of, because it's about as big a commitment as you can make to downtown Warsaw. I
enjoy it every Sunday, Dave.
Yeah, thank you, Diane. Yeah, and it really means something to us. People think I'm crazy, but I love walking out there and seeing those trees that were there in the fall, and hopefully didn't die because of the dry conditions in June when they were planted. But thank you very much. Thanks for giving me this time to make this presentation. We appreciate what all of you do for the city as well. And thank you, Joe.
Thank you. Are there any questions? All right, appreciate your time.
Thank you, guys.
All right. All right. So, I have to learn to say Baker Tilly instead of Umbaugh. The folks from Baker Tilly tonight, formerly Umbaugh, are here to make a introduction of some financial policies that I referenced last week in my State of the City. These are financial policies that we will ask the council to adopt that will help us in our budgeting process, our forecasting for our budgeting process. We have a committee made up of a redevelopment commission member, Jeremy. Jack is from the city council. Obviously, Lynn is involved, I'm involved, and we're sitting down working through these policies, and I think it's important tonight to give Baker Tilly the stage now to talk a little bit about specifically what we're looking at doing, and you will see these in a more detailed form in the future as we consider the adoption of those. So, ready?
Just give me a second to get my presentation up here. I don't know how to get this to project. Oh, it is up. Okay, good. Okay, great. Good evening. I'm Susan Reed, and I am with Baker Tilly, and much like the mayor, it will take me a little bit of time to get used to saying that as well. This is actually my first time before this council, but I know that you've had lots of people from then Umbaugh here in prior meetings, and we always welcome the opportunity to work with Warsaw on its on financing. So just to give you a little bit of background, Umball did become Baker Tilly, and we are under the Baker Tilly Municipal Advisory umbrella, and that happened on March 1st, so it's very new to us. And what we really anticipate this being is enabling us to provide expanded capabilities to our long-term clients. What it won't do is take away the people who you've always worked with. They will be here, even though I'm a new face. The people who you're used to working with will also be a part of the team working with Warsaw. So we think it's very positive, and we're excited about the opportunities it brings to help us provide more services to our clients, including things like helping to search for talent feasibly if you need a specific position filled. There's all kinds of things that will open for us. But today, we're going to talk about the overview of the comprehensive financial policy. And by way of background, the mayor and Lynn talked to us after really going through the rating process several years ago about the desire to help solidify the things that the rating agencies had suggested when they went through the process, and some of the things that they looked at for best practices for financial management across the country. So this policy we sat down first with the mayor and with Lynn, and then subsequently with Jack and Jeremy as well, to help flesh out the things that it should include. So the policy itself does include budgeting and long-term financial planning objectives, as well as transparency for the city and its financial information, including reporting to the council and the public, and also about investments and reporting. And then it sets forth the debt policy, formalizes the debt policy and considerations around debt, as well as the reserve and liquidity policy. And I'll get in more detail in a second on that, on each of those areas. It also requires that it be reviewed on an annual basis in conjunction with the budgeting process, as it should. As you get in and use this policy, hopefully you'll find things that maybe need to be adjusted to better fit the city. And so each year you can look at this and figure out what would best fit the city in these objectives that'll be set forth in here. So today is the introduction of the policy. We would ask for the council to review the policy in detail after the presentation and make sure that you have time to review it and ask any questions or frankly bring up any concerns you may have about things that you would like to see included in it. And then it will be presented then back to this council for adoption by resolution. It's one of the first municipalities of which I'm aware in the state that has taken this kind of comprehensive approach to financial transparency, even though it's recommended by GFOA, and it's done a lot across the country, but not as much in the state. So I certainly commend the city for taking these steps. What we've based this policy on in development is recommendations from the Government Finance Officers Association, again, the rating criteria that really sets forth specific things that they're looking at when they're looking at units of government. And then really, it's one thing to take all this criteria, but to bring in that specific input from the city in a review of the current practices and the financial statements, so that you're not just adopting something that'll sit on the shelf, but something that you in fact can follow and it fits the city itself. So that's where your city leadership has really helped us. It also will basically create a roadmap for the future for city leadership. So past this administration, way into the future, this will be something that the administrations can follow. Okay. So in many ways, it's memorializing things that the clerk treasurer already is doing on a monthly basis. She will provide the council with a fund report that shows the most current end of month budget to actual revenue and expenditure comparisons. And an investment report will also be included on a quarterly basis. That is something that the rating agencies like to see, at least, that you're able to see that on a quarterly basis, and provide input as to any adjustments that you may see appropriate by reviewing that. All financial reporting is available and provided through the Gateway system in Indiana, which is currently done as well. And then ordinances and resolutions, when in final form, are public documents as well. And I will say, if anybody has questions as I'm going, feel free to just jump in and please ask them. It might be easier than me getting all the way through and then you had a question about something on a few pages back. So this policy really pulls in different policies into one umbrella. Part of that, the transparency piece, and then the debt policy is another part that provides specific guidelines for the council for recommendations around debt financing. The debt here that's under this umbrella, it would exclude your enterprise, utility, separate utility debt. This covers things that matches your budgeting process, like your ad valorem property taxes, your income tax debt, tax increment, as well as bonds payable from revenues through lease rental revenues that are essentially, ways in which the city is able to utilize or work within its debt limit under the constitutional guidelines. So the debt policy sets goals for limiting debt not to exceed, and these are, again, things from GFOA recommendations, as well as looking at what the rating agencies do look at. It's a percentage of gross assessed valuation of the city, so 3%, not to exceed that. The net tax supported debt per capita, which would not exceed $2,000 per capita. And then a debt service as a percentage of expenditures will not exceed 8% of the city's total expenditures, and net direct debt as a percentage of total government funds revenue will be less than 60%. So that is something that we have worked with the city to establish. They're currently well within those parameters as well. So, but it is very helpful to have that memorialized. The other thing that the one thing it does not include is debt that would be specifically payable from tax increment, because that really is neutral on the tax impact to the city. The debt policy also outlines parameters around refunding bonds, outlines a typical savings of 3%. It notes for ratings and credit enhancements that typically, in order to pursue ratings or credit enhancements, it should make your cost of borrowing lower. So you would want to see that savings as a result of getting debt rated or having a credit enhancement should result in lowering the cost to borrow. It sets forth parameters around the debt structuring, including how far out the debt may be amortized, let's see if I spit that out, but the bond schedule out no more than 20 years for general obligation bonds, as well as making them callable within a 10-year period. Investments of bond proceeds are set up as set forth in state guidelines to protect the bond proceeds, to make sure that you're going to have the money there and it's safe for the projects in which the city plans to invest those proceeds. And then for bonds that are subject to continuing updates to the market, it also outlines the continuing disclosure obligations, because certain bonds have federal requirements that the market be updated on an annual basis about how the city's doing, essentially, that affects those bondholders. And then finally, arbitrage compliance, which is basically making sure that for tax exempt debt that you're meeting the tax requirements for investments of bond proceeds and reporting and rebate to the federal government. The second piece of it is that it establishes a reserve and liquidity policy and sets up a formal reserve target. That's one of the things that rating agencies and government, basically any kind of governmental best practices guidelines will tell you that having a reserve target that's formalized is really important to make sure that a unit of government is protected should there ever be a downturn, or you would have unexpected expenses perhaps from a natural disaster. So it sets forth those parameters to help, again, improve the financial stability and allow for a cushion in the event that this should ever occur.
Does this refer to what we maintain in our general fund balance, or what?
This will, yeah. In fact, you can see on this next slide, this reserve is specific to the general fund for making sure that you have an equivalent of 15% of operating expenditures in the general fund. I can tell you right now, the city has worked very hard and you have nice reserves. So it's not anticipated that you'll ever dip to this, but it sets a floor, and that's very important to, it's very important to the market to make sure that that is in place, particularly the rating
When I
agencies.
saw that, I'm like, well, we've always tried to maintain it well above that. and so
Yeah.
I don't want to go backwards.
Oh, absolutely not, yeah, and so that's a good point. I mean, what this does again is just, it sets sort of your floor, certainly not where you may want to put something above
So
it.
this formalizes our policy.
It does.
So that any lenders would know that we are not going to go below that.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. And it's, something that just having it memorialized, again, helps the city when it goes through the rating process.
Okay, thank you.
The city also actually has unrestricted reserves and other funds too that help with its liquidity here too. So again, basically should it ever, and it allows for that annual review process that if the city ever did get close to that target and, it was projecting out in the 5-year period coming up that it was going to dip below it, it's an automatic trigger for that management team then to regroup and figure out how to get those reserves back up, which is essentially what that says there too. And then if it sets up how funds can be spent should that reserve target exceed and you're looking at, a potential decision to spend some excess revenue. So what it sets up is that you're always going to operate within a balanced budget. However, if you should choose to, spend down for a specific project or to fund certain things, then it establishes when the kinds of things that should be spending reserves on so that they're not reoccurring expenses. So to fund accrued, you may decide to spend down some reserves to fund accrued liabilities like pensions or debt obligations or other post-employment benefits. You could also decide to do that to contribute to capital projects, which is often what we see municipalities do. They've been saving up funds and have done better than they expected. Maybe they got more revenues in than they anticipated for a year. And they'll use those instead of on operating where you're going to have ongoing costs to spend it on a capital projects. And then also to start up new programs. Perhaps that might be a good thing, startup costs to do that. But those are just ideas on how you would spend that. Oh, shoot. I got a little ahead of myself. Okay, one more. The liquidity policy is also focused on being able to access cash. So, if your cash is all tied up in assets, then you may not be able to easily access it, and there may be costs associated with trying to access it. So this is setting liquidity targets for you as well. So this enables the management team to have that in place too. So the tools to manage cash flow and ease in a time of crunch, the 3 most prominent are using the cash reserves, interfund borrowing, where there's a limited time in which that money is lent to another fund. It's repayment of those interfund borrowing. And then borrowing funds externally is permitted by state law. So I didn't want to go too much in the weeds, but Meredith and Jack, did I capture most of it? And Lynn? Okay.
Yeah, I think the most important thing, and as we go through bond calls, I think that's when it became apparent to us that we were doing a lot of these things, but they hadn't been formalized. And those are the questions that S&P asks. Okay, you got a reserve policy, send it to us. Well, okay, we adhere to it, but we don't have a formalized policy. And that's really the purpose of these practices. And, obviously, we want to help save our taxpayers by keeping our bond rates as low as we can. The only way to do that is to formalize these policies. But not only formalizing them for the bond rating, but I think, Jack, you'll agree, and Lynn as well, these are best practices that really help us as we get into the budgeting process and forecasting our needs in the future, it's going to be a big help to the council from a budgeting standpoint. So we're just asking to consider this tonight as an introduction. You can certainly, as council members, you can go to Jack and talk to him about any issues or concerns or details that you need. Jack, any comments on that process or what we've been through so far?
Well, as I understand it, in the past, we've had a lot of these policies, but they've been here, there, and everywhere. And I think this provides us, the council, the city, a playbook, so to speak, of as we go through different financial questions, things that we've got to consider when it comes to obtaining a bond, or we've got a large project, or something catastrophic happens. We've got some pre-planning already done. We go back to our playbook, we look at it, and we say, we've set these limits. How do we take care of what we need to do? I just think it's a really good document for the city to have.
Again, I compliment you for pursuing it. I think hopefully it will be a great roadmap for you.
Questions?
The only question I had was on page 12, it said the clerk treasurer will enter its compliance by June 30th each year. Is that for the previous year? So, for example, would she be by June 30th of this year, making sure that we were in compliance in 2018?
Yeah, it would be looking backward. There may be a forward look at the reserves targets to make sure, again, in that 5-year forward look that you're going to be making, but it is during that process that any adjustments would be made to the budget for the following year then, but it is yes, it is looking back.
Okay, thank you. The only other question I had was on page 4, time for council to review. How much time do we have?
Oh, on my one, I think we were talking about me coming back to the next meeting, but it's really up to you.
Our next meeting is in about 10
It's
days.
actually March 28th.
Yeah, it's Thursday.
If you feel like you need more time, I mean, I'll defer to you all.
I think that's a little.
Anybody else?
Have you set any numbers to go with the liquidity yet? Like how much cash we want to be able to access easily? I didn't see any percentages in there or any.
Yeah, that is not specifically laid out in
Okay.
the policy. It is more flexible. It more just sets forth considerations for liquidity on that piece.
So how you would invest your money or where you would have it rather than the amount.
Right, exactly.
All right.
I
Yeah.
think some of the expectations on this document are for this group, this financial management group that we put together, so that those expectations will fall on that group. If Lynn would come in and say, hey, we're hitting a cash crunch, the expectation, according to the document, is that this financial group respond to that with some decision-making. I think it's pretty hard to anticipate an amount of something like that, but it gives us the expectation that that is something that we need to address and will need to address.
Okay.
So,
But not in a vacuum.
pardon me?
But not in a vacuum. I mean.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
We'd still come back to council for things that need to be done.
And I do think it's nice having a council person as part of the team that evaluates this. It's very wise and something, that, and you have the redevelopment commission representative as well, they have a lot of projects.
All right, so I'd ask that you study up on it. If you have any questions, you can come to me, you can come to Jack, you can come to Jeremy, or even Lynn on some of the specifics here, so. All right.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Baker Tilly, right?
Baker Tilly.
All right.
It's going to take a while to get used to.
All right, thank you. Lynn, anything on the February fund report?
Nope, other than it's part of what we just talked about, and you get this every month, showing where the balances are and what was spent and brought in during each month, in each fund.
All right. All right, let's move into new business. We'll start with Human Resources Resolution 2019-0302. This is a transfer. Jennifer?
This is just transferring money from my professional services into wages and also for insurance. This is to pay for our janitor. In the past, around budget time, we budgeted for a cleaner. Can you hear me?
Is that on?
Yeah, it's on.
For a cleaner, and we had a janitorial service come in and do that, but we just find that it is better that we have our own employee now, so.
And he's working out really well, I will say.
Thank you.
It's nice to have someone here all the time during the day.
Questions?
I move to pass resolution 1932.
I'd second that.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, thank you. Item number 2, this is from the Building and Planning Department. It's a streetlight authorization form, 2019-0312. This regards a specific placement of a streetlight on Park Avenue. Justin?
Yeah, so on February 19th, the planning department got a call from a concerned resident, and she noted that she saw a group of students standing out beside her house at an alleyway that intersects with Park Ave. She noted that the intersection was very poorly lit, and she was concerned that students were unsafe at that location. So she asked if there was anything we could do to help improve the safety of that location. We reached out to NIPSCO, and it looks like they would be able to place a streetlight at that location and just improve the safety for those students who wait there in the mornings. With the council's approval, I'd like to get this letter of authorization sent out to NIPSCO, and hopefully we can get that light up in the next couple of weeks.
Questions? Ron, I think that's in your district. Any comments?
No, I think it's an excellent idea, and I certainly would move we accept your resolution.
Is there a second to
I'd
that?
second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, thank you. Thanks, Justin. Next item is from Building and Plan as well. This is a tax abatement for Freedom Oil, CF1 compliance review. Jeremy?
It is that time of year again. There'll be more to come. This is the first one we have received, and Mr. Cobb is here tonight if you have any questions for him. But as is usual, they will start submitting their CF1s for past tax abatements that were granted. The CF1s follow those tax abatements granted for 10 years. Personal property or real property. In this case, it's real property for the investment that Mr. Cobb made with the new Freedom Oil on Argonne Road. So he's just asking for continuation of that tax abatement.
I'm reading it right, 1.8 million?
Yes.
Okay. You need a motion for that, Jeremy?
Yeah, you just be
So moved.
approving the CF1.
I'd second that one.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right. Thanks, Craig. Anything you want to say?
Well, with our other store, we invested $4.5 million into our salt.
Yeah.
Thank you.
In the last 2 years.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right, very good. All right, other matters come before the council.
Yes. This has been a difficult and sobering time for us as council members while the investigation into the incident involving our police chief and the separate investigation of 2 of our police officers have taken place. All of you at the council table here have at one time or another shared with me about sleepless nights, tense stomachs, confusion, and an intense desire to get at the truth, make that truth available to the people we serve, and support the members of our police department as they go about their daily jobs during this unsettling time. I've shared in those same afflictions with you. You've expressed to me as your council president the desire that you would like to discuss openly what we as a council might do, if anything, to lay to rest the questions and speculations that continue to be expressed by the people you serve, as well as any lingering questions you yourselves may have. To honor that request, I would like to give each of you the opportunity to speak if you so desire.
Well, I'd like to say something. I've been reading quite a few things over the past couple weeks, at times somewhat feeling like I'm not even a part of the process. So that's bothered me greatly, not only for the citizens that I represent, but I see a large contingent of very dedicated police officers here. And over the past several days, I've been thinking quite a bit about this meeting. And I've been praying that if the rumored course of action is called to a vote, I am really hoping that a majority decision will send not only a clear message to this community, but also the right message to the citizens. By the end of last week, I have to admit, I did hit the pause button, and I stepped back for a moment when I realized the majority of this membership, along with now a state representative, had now publicly offered so many similar opinions and suggestions through media outlets. At this moment, I'd like to discuss 5 major realities I simply can't ignore. Unless others serving on this body can show me where I'm wrong or provide new insights, I'm very likely going to have reservations about seeking an outside consultant. The 5 things I'd like to talk about, and maybe you can help as a board clarify it. To my knowledge, the 2 private citizens involved in the series of unfortunate events have not asked to take any action against the city of Warsaw. Is that still true? Is that,
As far as I know.
that's as far as I know as well. A veteran public servant at the state level performing countless police investigations for the Indiana State Police concluded there's no reason to pursue this issue any further. Is that correct? It is? And again, my concern would be if, any type of action is going to be taken on this board, that we are saying as a common council, elected officials, we do not trust the Indiana State Police. The third thing, our elected Kosciuszko County prosecutor determined there is no reason to pursue this issue any further. I served with the county prosecutor on this council years ago. Our own elected Dan Hampton has said there is no reason to pursue this further. I'm concerned that this board, if any action is taken tonight, is going to say Dan Hampton is not making the proper decision. Fourth thing, ever since Mike Klondaris, Jack Wilhite, and then I heard Gene Northerner walked into the mayor's office in early February, which I have to admit is still very puzzling to me. Our mayor has been open up front with our entire membership related to any matters connected to this issue. There hasn't been one time. I haven't talked to him very much because of my responsibilities and what I've had to focus on as a city councilman and the Board of Public Works, my great deal of respect for every officer involved in this situation, okay? I haven't experienced one thing. And I'm concerned, based on what I've read again, local media outlets, that for some reason, there's these accusations he hasn't been open. I'm concerned about that and I need clarification. And then the last thing, 30 out of our 34 sworn officers had an opportunity to individually speak with our chief executive and offer insight associated with the police chief's leadership and his ability to promote a sound working environment. It greatly disappoints me that a majority of this legislative body has ignored the 11 hours of interviewing that has gone on. That's disappointing to me. If we have ignored the majority of this board and even questioned the honesty, the integrity of about half the department that's here tonight. That greatly concerns me that we would want to take steps even further than what has already transpired. I'm puzzled, and I definitely need some clarification so I can obviously better serve on this board and better serve the residents, my constituents in my first district. Thank you, Diane.
Would anybody else like to speak?
I'll say a few words. To say I'd rather be somewhere else tonight would be an understatement. I do have some questions in my mind. I appreciate Jeff's outlook on this. I do feel it's critically important that we restore the confidence of the people in this community, because there are a lot of questions out there. I've never had so many people contact me about an issue. More contacts on this issue than I've received on all the other issues that's come before me as long as I've been here, which is 7 years. We need to restore the confidence in us as a governing body, and I want to restore the confidence of those who wear the blue, that faithfully serve and protect the people in this city, and I appreciate each and every one of you for what you do. Believe me, from my heart, I do. I mean that. I do believe that the people on this side of this desk want everyone on that side of this desk. We want to be viewed as being above board and trustworthy. From what I'm hearing, there is alarm about what took place on the night of January 25th. There's an apprehensiveness about how an agency can impartially investigate itself. There's concern about why 2 officers came forward in the first place. And I simply want to get to the truth of what's going on. I think there have been plenty of mistakes, misunderstandings, misstatements, perhaps some missed opportunities these past weeks. But for me, this is always about seeking the truth. It's not about politics. Jeff mentioned my name and Jack's. We did go see these people. I was obligated. I felt I was obligated to do what I did. If anybody calls a city councilman, I think we have that obligation to look into the matter. We swore an oath, just like you guys. And that's my obligation to do. Look into this. And I truly believe the mayor did what he was obligated to do. He did the right thing. But the results have not been satisfactory to the public, at least from what I hear. Therefore, I've come to the conclusion that I believe this council should explore the possibility of an independent council to advise us on how to proceed in order to bring this matter to a satisfactory result for everybody. And I guess let the chips fall where they may. It's not easy to sit up here and say these things. The mayor's a good man, and I think we're lucky that we have him, and I mean that. He's led this community honorably, and we're prospering here. But I've had a lot of people come to me expressing real concern, and so I think we need to look into it. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak?
Well, I really want to compliment the council. This has been a tough situation. I agree. I think we all have had sleepless nights, all involved. I don't want you to have any words put in my mouth. I trust you and I believe you. But council's job, in my mind, is to be a balance. And we're closer to the people, I think, than any elected body here. And I do think the process is broken if an employee feels there's no other place to turn to come to council. I think we are in the chain of command, all with the right intention. This is just troubling that that can't happen. I'm like Councilman Clonderis. I have had more contacts over this subject than anything else, including the sewer, which is amazing. And I think the people, the population, would like some clarity independently, and seeking a council to tell us what we should do, in my mind, is by no means a dark shadow on anybody. There's just a lot to digest here, but it's a situation I hope we can resolve.
Well, in my mind, I believe we all want the same thing. We all want the community to feel like the right things are happening. We want to make sure that the entire community has confidence that their elected officials are doing what needs to be done. I, too, have had more people than I can count come to me and say that something needs to be done to look at the events that have happened and to make sure that things are being done on the up and up. When things get into a political situation, and I've said this to every one of you on the council, I hate politicians. And I realize that I am one, but I do. I hate politics. I wish I could take politics out of the way the PD is run, the way the fire department's run, and just have you guys be able to work as if you were at one of our companies. There's politics there too, but at least it's not as bad. The people that have surprised me by who it was. You know, you get a lot of people that you know they're going to complain. Some people are just plain going to complain. And there's a certain percentage there. And some of those came forward. But it's when the people that you look up to come to you and say the very same thing.
Long, and like I said, it was detailed. When I read the incident report a few days later, the story followed the exact same. It did not change. Scott Whitaker has my respect, and he has the respect of the officers in the department, and many of them are here today. I urge you as a city council to please do not listen to the loud minority. This minority has been feeding you lies. I urge you not to listen or entertain Facebook court or listen to the false news that's being reported. Again, our department, there is not a perfect department out there, and ours is not perfect. There are not issues in the city police department as what was reported. The issue is with the loud minority, which ends up being a few officers. Chief Whitaker did not ask me to be here today. He did not ask me to talk. I'm doing this because I have trust and I have confidence in our chief of police. Thank you for your time.
My name's Tom Balaz. I'm a 15-year employee of the city of Warsaw. The last 9 years an employee at the Warsaw Police Department. And again, I concur, kudos to Councilman Gross and Diane Quantz, and the mayor and everything of being fair and just. All I seen in this article that was released before was finalized for this case is, I got it on my phone too, of a reading that Mike Klondaris stated in this thing that started out that he interviewed the couple in the incident, went out and interviewed, then he comes back and states, well, I fear for Officer Manier and Dobbins going back to the Warsaw Police Department because they'll be going into a toxic environment. I want to know what agency, how you substantiate toxic environment that the Warsaw Police Department has. I've been there 9 years. I don't know that. I go to the dictionary and it's kind of, what is toxic? Maybe I don't know what it is. But, you say it's a toxic environment. And you got 30 officers, 607 civilians. Toxic. I think citizens, everybody wants to know what's toxic. Who said it was toxic? Where's this came? But that's what Mike Klondaris said, as these officers will be going back into a toxic environment. I've been there 9 years. I don't see any evidence of a toxic environment. Is there anything that could be done? Or when this information gets out, does somebody edit this information? City attorney, is this politically correct? Are we saying this? Is this slanderous? Or we just making a statement up? That the Warsaw Police Department is a toxic environment. Wow. Pretty bold statement. I mean, is there proof? Is there anything substantiated on this? Is there letters from previous officers, civilians, situations going on that nobody knows about? That's the first fold of my question of that. So anybody wants to respond or a retraction in the letter, since the whole city or anybody is in news reading this, thanks, wow, Warsaw Police Department, toxic environment. Does that mean everybody that's working in there, they got toxins on them, they're gonna be toxic to everybody else, or toxic, I don't know how to word it, but I don't think it's toxic. And the second fold of my question is the same thing. My interpretation and my own opinion, as we see incidences happen in different townships, different cities all over the state of Indiana, where something happens and they get an outside agency. I've been here in Indiana since '94 and right here in Warsaw. And all these other cities and things in the state of Indiana refer to as the outside investigations as the Indiana State Police. They come and investigate it, they clear it, people are satisfied or happy. And it goes on. That's all we know. That's all us have to do, citizens. That's all the recourse we have. Is it goes from that, goes to a state agency, federal, state court, federal court, and goes on. And people will accept the outcome of those people in that field. I kind of feel that it's 2 to 4 council members are saying, I'm the judge, the jury, and the hangman noose. We got separate departments that do this called our judicial system, where it has to go through a chain of command and people to see if it's going to be heard by people. I don't know, might not be right. This is my opinion of how I've learned what it is. And so I think it's fulfilled, just like Councilman Gross and Quaintz and everybody is fulfilled. We found the answer right now. State police, Winona Lake Police, county police. This case is unwarranted and resolved. And that's what everybody else in this state, is the city of Warsaw an exception to this? That we are better than every other city in the state? That we have to have our own internal investigations on this stuff? Basically, it's just, plain layman terms, we don't trust the Indiana State Police investigations. Either they're not experienced enough, or For what? We got to find the reason why we don't trust him. You know, is it he's friends with this so-and-so, or just like was mentioned here on the thing, Councilman Wilhite, you know, the incident is big because it happened to one particular officer, the chief. And like I said, everybody makes mistakes, situations get, you know, the course of an officer out there doing force and stuff, so things might get up. Everything was apologetic by the chief of police, the mayor, everything that we got here. We got all kinds of investigators with the county. Anybody could have handled this, but apparently 4 members of the council say that they don't trust them. You know, we got it, and then we don't trust the state police. I don't think we got it here from Councilman Frush. I don't think it's there. He's not satisfied. That's his opinion. He's not satisfied. Does that come from all the people in his district too? When I elect a councilman, I look at that councilman saying, wow, he's the same kind of idealistic things I want to do. He's got the same morals and ethics and ideas and ways to do. God, that's just like me. Man, that's my voice. That's who I want representing me here. So then you put this lack of trust into the people, where it's putting the trust and the things of people in these different districts. Wow, these 3 districts here, looking at these people in this district, then it blows this whole proportion out citywide for all these districts. Wow, he's got the same ideas, or everybody could come to their own conclusions or assessments, because there's no evidence, proof, positive things of who wants to continue this thing. I think we've exhausted it and everything on that. So if there's any other ways, or people got suspicions, but I just want to know if there's going to be a retraction in the paper, or something could go out, or we could get some kind of evidence of who said the Warsaw Police Department is a toxic environment. I don't know. I don't see it. Can we get people who come forward? Like you said, you're going to put your name, who you are, to say, we got a problem. If you don't, basically it's hearsay or conjecture or the grapevine and everything like that, or the media of that website. Wow. You know, I don't know. But we have the council, and that's what it is. Council works with the mayor. Mayor and council, 50-50. That's the heartbeat of the entire city. That have the citizens go up and say, yeah, I put that guy in office because he represents my ideas, my thoughts, my things I want to do. And then so all these people in your district are saying, yeah, right on, but then you do this, and they're like, I don't know. Like I said, we don't know how many people, if any, and Congressman Frush did it. We don't have that. We need more information, more details, or just the opinion of the Councilman Frush that this isn't resolved, or I'm not content with the Indiana State Police investigation. I don't know, but I don't know if there's going to be a retraction on that, or the city could be known, or if there is, proved there's a toxic environment at the Warsaw Police Department. You got 40 people, civilians, people go out and people come up, hey, I didn't know you're working in a toxic environment. My God, what is it? You know, that's going to be going on now. From one little statement put out there before an investigation was done or is, so I don't know. I don't see it. I've been there 9 years.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Sorry about I took too long.
You know, my words may not have been the best choice, and I don't believe that there is a toxic environment at the police department. My fear, however, was that these 2 officers that were disciplined may go back to a situation that, let's just say, may be less than pleasant. That was my fear.
Hang.
Let's hear from somebody else.
I can tell you from reading the officer statements, there were actually some officers that talked about having been disciplined very similarly to what is going on, and they said they came back and that the chief was their biggest cheerleader.
I too have
And
heard that.
And he made sure that they got a fair shake and that they started over with a clean slate and that they were promoted. And so I do know that that has been said by some of the officers. Now, sorry, I interrupted you. I'm sorry.
My name's Phil Hawks. I live in the city, and I proudly work at the Warsaw Police Department for the past 6 years. And I just have a couple kind of statements towards you, Mr. Calanderis. The two that I work with every day, okay, I would take a bullet for them still, okay, but they didn't do it for the reasons you think so. Officer Manier said he wanted to blackmail the chief, and Dobbins said he wanted a change in administration. They didn't say anything about him being wrong or what he did was wrong. Policing is a dirty business, okay?
It's a hard job, I know.
I don't think you do know, honestly.
Oh, I
because
probably don't, but I know it's tough.
Have you been
I
a
don't
police
wanna do
officer? Have you ridden the streets with me? Because I will tell you in the past
No,
6
sir.
years, our mayor is the only one that's ridden with me. Am I wrong, guys? He's the only one that's come out and ridden with me the entire time. Okay? Those two did it for the wrong reasons. They could have went to Jennifer at HR. They could have went to Captain Beam. They could have came to the mayor. Your guys' investigation is going how you want it to go. You don't like what the state police had to say. You don't like what our internal investigation had to say. Do you think we like investigating our own officers? Do we like being put in the limelight? No. You're making it hard to police in this community, and I feel like it's a waste of taxpayer money to hire a private attorney to come out and give you the same answers. When is this gonna end? When is it gonna end? When are you gonna be happy? When Chief Whitaker's gone? Because it's not gonna make us happy. So I'm still waiting to hear when you've been a police officer and what it's like to work the road.
You're asking me when?
Yeah, you said you know what it's like.
No, I can imagine, maybe I can't imagine what it's like. I've already stated, I commend you for what you do. It's not the line of work I would choose.
I'm just telling you what everybody else, they did it for the wrong reasons.
Okay, I appreciate hearing that. Thank you.
I've stated that I had the opportunity, spent 11 hours a few weeks ago to talk to 30 of these gentlemen. I think everyone, lady and gentleman, excuse me. And there's just, I just want to read, I've got about 10 pages of notes, and I just want to read one of the first officers I talked to, really says it all about Scott Whitaker's leadership and about how these police officers take their job. I couldn't be happier here. All discipline is handled confidently by the administration. There's no place I would rather be. Scott legitimately cares about his guys. Nobody I would pick than this administration. Discreet and fair when disciplining. Morale is good on seconds. Thirds might have a handful of guys, negative, pessimistic. Naysayers don't like police. But this is what really got me. He said, I was disciplined, lost my stripes. It was fairly handled. I was busted down. I took responsibility for the discipline on myself. Leadership had my back. Biggest problem is a couple guys who think they have been wrongly passed up, bitter, never able to admit they made a mistake, cannot admit it, and can't hold themselves accountable. And I'd have to say, the vast majority of these gentlemen that I talked to gave me the same thought, that taking responsibility for their actions is part of their job as a policeman. Is the department perfect? No. And I told them, if any of them told me it was, I would believe them. You know, these guys deal with conflict every day. That's all they do. Are there going to be warts on the department? Yeah. You know, scale of 1 to 10, I'd say we're about a 7.5. That's pretty good. It isn't perfect. We got a lot of work to do. But it's not the dysfunction that I was told. It's not the low morale that I was told. And I just went in collectively to get my thoughts on these fine gentlemen, and I walked out. I can't believe how impressed I am with each and every individual, but more so the respect, the vast majority of the respect they had for our chief. And kind of told me the story. I did the homework. I was questioned that I didn't have a handle on my police department. So I decided it was time to go in, and got a pretty good handle on my police department. Jerry?
Yes. My name is
Jerry Opperud. I'm probably here in the best interest of the community because I think we've gotten away from realizing the real problem here. And it's affecting the community. So if there's going to be a resolve to this problem, it's going to be because the community comes together to make that resolve. And in order for the community to do it, it has to be represented. It has to be represented by the council. And if the council can't do it, there's something wrong with our political system because these people are appointed, they're elected to represent we the people. So I think we've got that issue yet to be resolved. Thank you.
Hello. I'm Chris Hansen. I live 2192 Heather Court. I live in Councilman Clondaris' district. I can only think about how I would feel had this woman hit my, would have been 28-week pregnant wife while driving home. We travel down 200 very frequently, so I support Chief Whitaker and all that he does for the community as well as these guys. I work at a bank, so I have no clue what it's like, but I appreciate what you guys do, and sincerely, don't let the echo chamber tell you that you guys are wrong. I have a question tonight for Councilman Shoemaker. Do you remember your comment you made to Dan Spalding on February 27th, 2019?
Refresh me, please.
Okay. Well, you declined to comment, but you said you did not want to politicize the situation. Now, did you receive an email from Deputy Access Counselor Christopher Cundiff on March 4th at 4:27 p.m.?
From whom?
Christopher Cundiff, the Deputy Access Counselor, Public Access Counselor, at 4:27 p.m.
I think it was around there, yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah, well, you did, because it was put on Warsaw Community's Facebook page.
And I think that's the one I handed over to council, too.
Yeah, but that was posted at 6:50 p.m.
I spread that out before I came to council. It was
So-
public information, so.
Yeah, it's public information, but you disseminated it to a page that has been labeled intellectually dishonest, not by any one of us here, by an Indiana authority.
And I think I also did it to the press, too. So
And,
everybody had it.
and that's what, everybody has
I'll
that.
disagree. I never saw it, I never received it until the end of the meeting. You said, I've got something here.
And so-
And I've had a great deal of respect for you at times, stating that, we need time to work through things, we need to be upfront, we need to communicate. And again, it boils back to the very beginning here, and exactly what you're saying. I'm glad you said that, because you just said, everybody got it. I sent it to everybody. Everybody had it. Here's my question. Why didn't a city councilman that has served on this board for a few years, why wouldn't you give it to me or contact me? Not at the end of the meeting, hold it up and now say to this constituent, okay, that, well, I gave it to everybody and everybody had it. I want to just make sure everybody knows I never got that,
Actually,
ever.
Jeff, the Friday before, you did have that information. I sent Diane and every council member that. Nobody responded, didn't I?
No, I didn't get it.
You didn't get an email that Friday before saying that council
Well,
said?
the email was dated March 4th at 4:27
talking
p.m.
about the-
And you disseminated it. It
final
was posted
decision
at
we got on the
6:50
day of
p.m.
council.
And the council meeting
We're
was
really
at
getting
7, so,
Sure.
Yeah,
We're really
we're
getting
talking
into the
about
weeds,
two
Mr.
different
Hanson.
emails.
huh?
Let me tell you, the Friday before the council member meeting, I talked to them, the people in Indianapolis. I emailed my council president and copied all the council, that same information. The email you're talking about was a confirmation of that.
That was on the Monday of the council meeting, and everybody didn't know about it before the council meeting.
At the end.
But I did
Yeah.
email everybody that Friday.
On the Friday.
Right.
Mhm. You did.
But you thought it was prudent to disseminate it before the council
Well, I
meeting.
don't know if I thought it was prudent, but, I
Oh,
don't know
but
how
you
your
did.
character. So how did this come to me over the issue that we're talking about?
Well, I just find it interesting. You
I
say you
find it
didn't
in-
want to politicize the situation, but
I
you
don't.
did.
I find it interesting that you're the mayor's nephew and you're up here speaking like
That's
this.
fine. Regardless if he was my mayor or my uncle or not, I'm to support the current administration.
I believe that.
I just want to clarify that I'm here on my own volition, and I find a lot of inconsistencies with your messaging, so. it's
I
fine.
appreciate your words.
If I may, I just want to address your concern about the possibility of your wife being, if she had been on the road that night and this woman was driving erratically, possibly causing an accident. There are many possibilities here. It's possible that when the chief ran up unannounced to this gentleman in his driveway, that he could have been a pistol packing Pete, and somebody could have been shot. If he did go down on the ground, he may have fallen and broken a hip or a wrist. He may have had a medical problem. He could have had a heart attack. I mean, there's so many scenarios, could haves, if you would. But none of those happened. My main concern here, and I think perhaps I'm being misunderstood by most. My main concern with this whole thing has always been that I think the chief did everything right until he ran up and put hands on this man in his own driveway. And I'm not a lawyer, and maybe you can do that, but I have been told by law enforcement people that you can't do that. And I really don't know the answer to that. If that's the case, if you can run up in civilian clothes out of a civilian car and put hands on somebody, and it's okay to do that, don't we send a message, a green light, so to speak, that anybody can run up and grab you in your own driveway and assist you to the ground or something else, I don't know. But it just doesn't seem right. What if that had been Marlon or Greg? I mean, do we allow that to happen in our town, is what I'm hearing from people. Because if we do, and people are telling me this, then I don't want to live here. And I think we're better than that, where we allow someone to run up in the dark, in civilian clothes, grab you and put you on the ground. That just doesn't seem right to me. And if somebody can tell me what the law is, I'd be glad to learn.
Attorney Royce, citizen's arrest, could I be in the right to do that if I
That's
felt
the problem
necessary?
I've had with this all along. And I am contacted frequently by the webpage that you're referring to, and I have not responded. The only response I've offered them is through the city attorney's advice. I've had to provide them with the interview that I did with them with Mr. Wilhite. So I have, to answer your first question, I don't have contact with them. I don't even have a Facebook page.
All right, well, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
I'm Christopher Brown. I live outside the city. I've worked for the Warsaw Police Department coming up on 4 years now. Something you just said, Mr. Clonderis, that struck me was that there are many things that could have happened. And
Fortunately, none of them did.
And it's interesting to note that we know that all of those things could happen and we do it anyway. Chief Whitaker knew running up on him that he could be a guy that had a gun, and it was worth it to him to keep that man from driving, to put himself in a situation where he could have died, and he did it anyway. Every single one of us would have done the exact same thing. I would have kept him from getting inside that car because I don't know. And when we're judged, Supreme Court says we're judged based on what you know at the time and what somebody with your same training and experience would have done in the same situation. And
But aren't there other ways to
I can ask you to please stop, okay? And if
Come
you
up to
don't, what do I
somebody
do?
and
What's my
just even
recourse?
engage in a conversation, and you can, you're trained, can't you perhaps smell alcohol on them, or tell by the way they may be talking, or, and deduce what maybe they,
Right.
he thought he
And
had a
you can-
medical
You can nitpick
emergency.
every situation, but we weren't there, and we don't know exactly what,
I give you
what
that.
actions were taken at the
I
time.
agree.
All I've got to say is, we understand the consequences of our actions when we're doing them. And whatever happened at the time was what Chief Whitaker felt needed to be done to protect the people of this city. And that's all I have.
Angela Gross. I have one thing to say. You are responsible, all of you. We have elected you to govern our city. But I have a problem with meeting behind doors and not including Jeff and Diane, discussing this outside counsel. There is a problem that you all haven't met together. And I think that this is all political. That's my statement.
And I think to address that just to the public, that you're seeing the problem because we were not allowed to meet together and discuss any of this. So you are actually hearing our discussion. I mean, you're actually hearing us talking to each other and telling each other what we think about what each other did, and you're hearing the down and dirty. I mean, you are right here hearing it firsthand, because we chose to do it in public. We didn't have any other choice. It either nothing was done, or we get everything out on the table and you guys hear what everything has to say. Nobody can be misquoted or things taken out of context because it's on tape.
Good point.
And, you guys put your lives on the line every day, and I appreciate it. And regardless of what you think about what some of the people up here are saying, it's not easy sitting up here and just being this transparent before all of you and knowing that what we say today is being recorded, not just officially, but otherwise, and snippets are going to be played or misconstrued, or pictures are going to go out, or things are going to be said. And once again, the public is going to be confused because they're not here tonight and they're not going to bother to log on to the city website to hear what really went on. And so it's going to, again, continue to be an issue. So it's not easy for us to talk to each other like this, but we felt that we owed it to you and we owed it to ourselves to get this out in the open. Tug?
I'm Justin Curtis, also known as Tug by many people. I just have one question for Mr. Klondaris. I'm going to say a short story. Whenever we do a police report, it's in a timely manner. We have to have it done right away. You said that you received information over this investigation and then waited 5 to 6 days before you went to the mayor. Did you share that information with somebody outside of the city, or who did you share the information with prior to going to the mayor? That's all I want to know, because a timely manner, that's not timely. That's for a situation that's got to this point now.
Well, one of those days, Tug, was a Sunday.
Mhm.
When the mayor was gone, one day, Councilor Wilhite and I went to see these people, and they did not want to talk to us. He was not home. We went the next day, and first opportunity we had, we did go see him. I wanted him to know. I mean, I felt I needed to tell him this before it got out. So I thought at the time that I was doing what I should be doing in informing the mayor.
So
And
what?
I didn't want to go talk to them alone. I wanted to have somebody with me.
So what I just heard is you started an investigation in the matter before reporting it to the mayor?
I just wanted to confirm what I had been told, because as a councilman, we get phone calls, my street's flooded, I have this problem,
Okay.
that problem, and my.
Did you
my
share it
answer
with
is
anybody else
always,
besides
I will look
Councilman
into it.
Wellhite?
I'm sorry.
Did you share that information with somebody else?
I'm not gonna say who I shared, I don't give out names, I just
Okay.
don't, but Jack and I are.
So
councilmen
outside
in
of
that
the
district.
council, somebody outside
I did
of
talk to
the
some
inner
people because I needed some
workings?
advice,
Okay,
that's all.
that's all I need to know, thank you.
Related to that, Mike, related to what I said earlier, I'm still puzzled related to these questions. Gene Northerner, when I read that in the, I think it was Ink Free News, where you had actually said, all right, that Gene Northerner was with you when you first went to the mayor's office. Mayor was who was in it? It was Jack, Mike, and it was Gene Northerner? That's when they met with you, Mayor?
Yes.
Okay. That would be, that question, that's what I'm wondering. What led to that? And nothing against her, I'm just wondering, all these, what's transpired, how did we get to that? Maybe I didn't even know 4 or 5 days later. Again, it's amazing what I'm finding out. How did that happen? What was behind that?
You know, I don't think I'm on trial. I don't think I'm on trial here. And the knowledge came to Jean, and she said she had a meeting with the mayor, and we knew we had to talk to the mayor, and we went with her because she had a scheduled meeting. And that's, I think Jack Wilhite will confirm that.
So now.
You know, this is a situation that I did not ask for. This was dumped on me, and quite honestly, I was not sure what to do. So I handled it as best that I could. And like I said in my statement, maybe some missed opportunities. I'm not perfect. I'm just trying to do the best job that I can. And, you know, the way this is going, I'll be glad to step down and somebody else can sit here. Because I'm doing the best I can. And this has been very stressful, and quite honestly, I don't need that. I would like to see this resolved as quickly as anybody. And you'll notice in my statement, I just, and I'll read it again, I believe this council should explore the possibility of hiring. So that's why we're having this discussion. I didn't come in here with, you know, a preconceived, we got to do this. You know, I appreciate the input. I was, you know, unwittingly drawn into this thing. I wish I'd never gotten that phone call. I really do. But that's water under the bridge.
Thank you, Mike.
My name's Gordon Allen. I live outside of the city. I proudly served the city of Warsaw as a police officer. I've been employed as a law enforcement officer for 13 years, 6 of which I've served in the city. I can assure you guys that these calls that the department is toxic are false. I know what toxicity looks like in a department. That's why I'm no longer employed with the original agency that hired me. That's why I sought to be employed by this agency here. I have good friends that work here. We support each other through tough times and through good times. We sweat with each other, we bleed with each other. We cry with each other, we wish things would get better. This job is difficult enough as it is. To have unnecessary negative attention put on us, which is what we're dealing with now, which just was evidenced by Tug's question, for solely political motivations is unnecessary, unwarranted, and we need to just get past this. The Rubenstein case is done. There is no re-litigation. I want to ask a question to the council directly, and I hope you guys will answer honest. Have there been previous calls to remove Chief Whitaker prior to this incident? And if there were, how many might have there been?
I have never received a call. He was hired on, I think, a year or two before I was elected. I've never received a phone call or any contact related to the chief. While serving as chief, I've probably worked with him closer than anybody on this board because of my role, the way I serve on this council. And I have never heard any complaint about the chief from anybody in the community or anybody in your department. The only thing I heard one time when he was appointed chief is, and I wish I could remember now which one of you told me, he earned it. It wasn't political, it wasn't something, he earned it, and that came from, I wish I could remember, so I better not say, but I think it was a patrolman, he earned it. That's how I'll respond to your question.
I appreciate that. To be a chief for a law enforcement agency for over a decade says something. You've kept a lot of people happy for a very long time. He's made it through different administrations here. He was not appointed by Mayor Tolman. I don't believe any of this needs to go any farther. Now, that's my opinion. Obviously, you all are the ones that are going to be vested in making the decision as whether or not we continue to let this thing perpetuate throughout the community. The only thing that I ask is that if you guys make a decision, that you seriously consider the fallout that may happen from it if, by chance, the result of the investigation shows the exact same thing that we already know. It will be a waste of time. It will be a waste of taxpayer resource. It will do nothing to help get this situation resolved where it's currently at. It will just make it appear more that it is a political hunt. So, thank you for your time.
Okay, now you got to keep it short.
Will do there, Councilman. Basic short here, we've all been here for this time frame. I think we have 4 council members here that have absolutely a lot of trust issues with every government agency that this state has to offer to resolve this case, and believe in these agencies to hire a private attorney, private investigator, where, I guess if anybody has lost the beginning of this, all this information is going back to this same state agency that says this condition is resolved and unwarranted. Or is this information going to some other court jurisdiction or some other people the council is hiring to view this? And you know, we're doing it. We've got the state, or everybody else in the state does it, but these 4 council members need someone else to get the truth from. I don't see it, and I just want to see everybody else that went through this.
Okay.
Who else is there? And then, you know, where does it end? I think we need to look in our own backyard before we go out on statements. They said there's a lot of mistrust out on the street. Well, here's the street, and we're looking back up here where it's all beginning.
Okay, at this, go ahead, sorry. At this point, we want to continue to hear if people have more ideas, more to add. I think we know what you support about what's already been said, so definitely we don't want to cut anybody off.
Right.
But please keep your remarks brief, and please, you can say, I agree with so-and-so, and you can sit down, or you can say, I agree, and I have this additional information. Okay? All right, go ahead.
My name's Clay Lane. I'm currently a lieutenant with the Warsaw City Police Department. I've been employed here for 24 years. It'll be 25 in a couple months. I've had the privilege of working here. It was my dream job. I still enjoy working here every day. I love the guys I work with. I think I'm a little bit biased, but I have the best group of guys I think there are. I've served under...
I guess I know who it is.
Well, I think I probably had something to do with probably everybody in this room. They've probably been on my shift at one time. And with that being said, I've had 3 mayors, 4 chiefs. Mayor Tolmer was the first mayor that I ever had that had personally come to me and asked how I felt on something. The mayor came and rode with me just to see how things were previous to this whole event. Some of you are long-serving members of the council. I was probably just a patrolman delivering papers to some of you. So I've been here a long time.
With that being said, as far as multiple mayors, multiple chiefs, I think it's been said that we don't all agree with every administration, and we shouldn't. I mean, we're all individuals. Everybody in this room is a type A personality, so we're not going to agree with everybody. We're going to have our disagreements. You can see we have all our own opinions, some stronger than others. But I would have to say that under the current administration, I have probably seen the most growth of our department. We've doubled the size of our detective division. We started a police bicycle program that was basically with the assistance of I believe it might have been Captain Whitaker at that time, and then continued with the chief, who supported that. He supported all our special teams. Whenever you felt that you needed something, all you had to do is put a proposal together, and if it was justified, the chief would make sure that we got it. And you as a council have supported us. It's been great to work here. There's a lot of departments that don't get the things that we get, which is another reason why I believe this is a great place to work. I don't think it's a toxic environment myself either, even if it's the wrong word that has been brought out. Unfortunately, I am a supervisor also, so I have been involved in disciplinary actions. And with that being said, it has always been kept information closed door to protect every officer involved in that so they have the best chance of succeeding when they come back out. I've seen multiple officers that have been on my shift, unfortunately, that have been disciplined, and they've come back and we've treated them all with the same respect as they were before. It's kind of like a kid when you get in trouble with your parents. You know?
I am
It's
glad
like,
to hear that.
Don't do that again. You know, just keep doing it. I've never been officially disciplined. I've had some pretty serious disagreements myself, but everything has always been fair, and I support my chief 100%. As far as I'd like to address the concerns about maybe dealing with the public off-duty and out of uniform, I don't know if there's some misconceptions there. The only time that an officer has to be in uniform and in a marked car is if they make a traffic stop. I myself have had to intervene in things that I have seen while I was off-duty and out of uniform. I witnessed somebody at Walmart that was a suspect that I had viewed in a video of a theft. I called Central Dispatch. I asked for an officer to come. Sergeant Petty arrived after I had to take action because I was waiting for the subject, and I didn't want him to leave, but he had checked out and he was getting ready to leave the property. So at that point in time, I walked up and identified myself using the badge, which every officer in this department is required by department policy to carry their badge and identification with them 24 hours a day. Everybody in this room here that's a police officer, once they're off of probation, they go to the Indiana State Police Academy. After that, we have arrest powers throughout the entire state of Indiana. In my case, a gentleman, even after I identified myself to him and he recognized I was an officer, decided he didn't want to stay. And I had no choice but to hold on to him until Sergeant Petty arrived. We act on the moment, and we have seconds to make decisions. The public and everybody else, they can go back and they can watch videos and they can talk about things for hours and hours on end. You can see it in police situations throughout the country that everybody is judged. We have seconds to think about what's going on. And I can't think of an officer on this department that hasn't always had the best interests of the city of Warsaw and the police department in the best interest. That's all I've had to say.
Thank you very much.
I'm Officer Roy Navarro. I've had the distinct pleasure to be on this department almost 5 years now. You know, when I came to this department, Chief Whitaker kind of talked to me a little bit about being more involved with the Hispanic community. And to see a man that truly does care about not only the citizens of Warsaw, but some of the other people that come to this country he's really pushed a lot for us to kind of venture out, work with those people. I can say that, we've had some pretty good conversations. I had an opportunity to go with him to Indianapolis one time to a Riley's event, and we spent 2 hours in the car, there and back, talking about some of my goals, some of my aspirations, and what I want to do as a police officer here for this city. I moved here in 1989, and this has been home for me. And it's been a great opportunity to work for this man. He really does truly care. He's encouraged me to join the Hispanic Officer Council for our department. He's been a big advocate for DARE, one of my true passions. And we're just getting ready to celebrate our 30th anniversary this year. There's no other program that's lasted this long. Not even the LAPD, who came up with the DARE program, has been able to sustain that much length in time. I can tell you that he does sincerely care about our citizens here. And I can tell you that he's helped me out, especially with a lot of tough times I've had in the last few years. And, I don't know, worked in a lot of different environments, but definitely I love my brothers in blue here. The toxicity, I don't see it. And that's all I have to say.
My name is Mike Cox, served 32 years on this department, and retired 4 years ago, almost 5. But, and I will tell you, during that time, Chief Whitaker and I disagreed on some things. We discussed things. But I trusted it, still do. As I see this situation, we got 3, I thought 2 situations, but actually 3 now, that I would like to say a few things about. And I'll take them kind of in reverse order from what I've seen. We got a situation where Mike didn't get it reported to the mayor promptly, but as he said, he did what he thought was right and the best that he could at the time. And that's exactly what these officers do when they get a call on the street. They take care of it as it happens on the street at that time. Whatever the reasons for delays, it got handled, got to the mayor. So that's one issue that I see that has become evident tonight. Second issue is 2 officers, for whatever their motives, went outside chain of command and did things that maybe they shouldn't have. That's not for me to decide. That's a separate situation that has been taken care of. They have been disciplined. The only thing I'd say about that is that perhaps there needs to be somewhere in writing for all officers or all employees to read and understand a policy that if you have a problem with the top person in your department, here is how you handle that. If you go outside this, you will be disciplined. Okay? And the third issue is how Chief Whitaker handled the incident at that time. He put his hands on a civilian while he's in civilian clothes and was in an unmarked vehicle, I believe. And that is something that none of us ever wanted to do, because you don't know how that person's going to respond. He thought he did what he had to do at that moment. Would I have done the same? I don't know. Probably not, but I wasn't there. These guys weren't there. Y'all weren't there. So nobody knows exactly the steps that were taken at that time or how he saw it. Scott's the only one that knows that. As I see it, you do have the right for a special counsel, special investigator, however you want to handle that. However, there was earlier reference to the situation with Sheriff Rovenstein. That dragged on for a while. And that delay in itself caused further problems. I think that investigation would center on Chief Whitaker's actions at the scene at that time. And in my estimation, you're not going to see a different result than what you've already got. You're not going to get a different opinion because the special investigator wasn't there any more than the ISP investigator wasn't there. Has to go on the evidence presented. That evidence probably isn't going to change because I would trust that ISP investigator did a pretty thorough job to see this through. And I don't think you're going to get a different result with a special investigator. It's going to drag it out, and who knows what's going to happen then. Thank you.
Mike, hang on just a second. Mike, you and I have known each other quite a long time, and I really appreciate your words. I respect you as a man, and I respect your opinion. And personally, I've heard enough, and I'll probably catch hell for this, but I'm going to rescind my request for this to happen. You guys have shed a light on this for me. I don't know that everything that the chief did was right, and I appreciate your honesty in that regard. When you said, would I have done this? I don't know. I can appreciate the fact that when you're put in a situation like that, you do the best you can in a short amount of time. You know, like I said earlier, I didn't ask for this. This came to me, and I wish it hadn't. I have the utmost respect for you guys. Believe me, I honestly do. And as I said, I think there were probably misdeeds, miscalculations, misstatements throughout. I'll read it again. Mistakes, misdeeds, misunderstandings, misstatements, perhaps some missed opportunities. So I appreciate what you said.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
We have one more person that's been waiting a little bit to talk, and then I think we're ready to turn it back to council. Okay.
I'm George Dockery. I don't only just live out of the city, I live out of the county. I'm completely away. But I've watched this because I truly support the men in blue. And I know several of the council members here, and it's broke my heart because I was raised in the Warsaw community to see a situation like this. And I'm sorry that I'm a little hoarse. I've been battling this cold that won't go away. Just tear a community apart. And I think as I was sitting there, because I did not come tonight to speak, I come tonight to give, I already mentioned, Representative Wilkins a report of what transpired. And, but I think we can narrow it down to one point, and I try not to preach to you, not trying to give you any ideas, but if you could focus on one thing, we could get above all of this. It's public perception. We need to make sure that the public trusts everything that we do. That's what you're sworn to do. That's what you're elected to do. And that's why I trust you, and that's why I elect you, is so I can trust you. And I think that's what we have here for whatever reason, whether it's all the way back to what happened with the Sheriff's Department, which was, let's face it, disgraceful, and what's going on here, there's a trust problem with the community. And I think that everybody in this room, and I appreciate what you did, Mike. As I'm sitting there listening to the testimony, I'm thinking, this is a train wreck ready to happen. And so I'm glad you're rescinding your, I understand your concern, and I understand everybody's concern that maybe we wanted a special counsel. But the only one that wins in this whole situation, do you understand if you call a special counsel, do you know who wins? The lawyer. He's the only one that wins. There's still because how far, I think Chris mentioned it, and I've worked with Chris. We both laid a long concrete for his uncle when I worked at Finn and Brown. And where do we stop? Public perception. So if I can give you, from an old guy, give you a little bit of advice tonight, work on the public perception and win that trust back, because that's what we elected you to do, and that's what you sworn to do. And I support each and every one of you. If you want to come by my house, I live up by Jellystone Campground. There's a big sign in my front yard that says, if you don't like the police, when you're in trouble, don't call them. Let's see how that works out for you. So just work on that perception. I'm sorry if I took it.
Okay, Counsel.
Well, I'd like to say that the officers that showed up this evening, I know the mayor spent 11 hours talking to 30 of you, I think is what was said. And frankly, your showing up here tonight means more than that to me. Because you did this, I'm believing, of your own free volition. And you're doing it because you really believe it. As I explained to the mayor in an earlier email, a company that I work for, many other companies around, they do surveys of their employees. They do it through an email. And a large percentage of people, even though our companies will take a third-party business and take those emails and separate the names away from the results, and then they give the company the results. They try to separate who said what from what was said as much as possible. And even though they do that, a lot of people won't take that survey because they're afraid that somebody's going to find out what they said. So what you did tonight by coming here speaks louder than what the mayor did, which I commended him for at least taking that step. One of the things that I think tear at this community, another story that I shared. About 5 years ago, I lost my father-in-law. He was going to a doctor's appointment, fell on the sidewalk, and broke his hip. And within a week, he was dead. And a lot of people have stories like that. That's why something like this incident has such an impact on people. I can't imagine what it would be like to be in a position like you all are. To have to look at a situation and be able to flip on a dime and be aggressive and be mild as, or meek as a lamb going up to that point. I can't imagine being able to do it. I don't know of anybody that can. And yet, it seems like that's the impossible position we put you in. I'm not going to give Mike hell for rescinding it. With what you all have presented tonight, I guess I go back to what Mr. Dockery said. Perception. let's not let this pain that we've gone through be for nothing. What can we do going forward from here that's going to mend this? That's going to show the community the good department that we've got. In my environment, we always talk about continuous improvement. That's because nobody is perfect, and there's always room to get better. How can we do that? How can we help you do that? I'd be willing to ride with you if you'll still have me. It's easy to get with the fire department. Don't ride with them. You know.
You get to go to the grocery store and stuff, you know.
It's easy to stop by there. If the truck's there, you stop in. You're out on the road. And frankly, with a lot of departments, I don't want to barge in and bother you. But I do want to know what's going on, because I got to make decisions based on, that affect you. I guess that's about all I got.
So I just got lost in, what is your feeling about, are things settled that we can move on from here with no further investigation?
As far as I'm concerned.
I think we can, but I still think some things need to be put in place that help us heal the community.
I agree.
And I think bottom line, I'm just going to be really blunt. If it's over and it's done, keep your mouth shut.
I want to echo Jack's words about you all coming in. I really appreciate that, and you have my 100% support. And I have been an law enforcement officer, so.
Mike, you've already said what you want to. Jerry?
Pretty much.
I'm all right.
Okay. I don't think any of you are old enough to remember when I was a child welfare caseworker. Maybe Mike, though. Went out on more than one call with you guys having my back. And I know what it's like to be in that situation when the adrenaline's running and a person shows up on the scene and you don't know who they are, which is why, by the way, I think you need your phones. But you don't know who they are, and you don't know their background, and you know, and you're in a situation, you don't know what you're walking into, and I'm like, I've been there, and it's scary, and the adrenaline's running, and you do what you have to do at the time to protect the people that you're there to protect, and you go on from there. And so, to me, having another investigator only perpetuates this wound. It makes it harder for you to do your job. We're also putting trust in you guys that if there's a problem, you bring it up in the proper way so that it can be taken care of, and it can be done confidentially. That's your human resources director if you haven't met her. You guys did sign off on the manual when you received it. I hope you read it. I hope that you know what's in there. I had urged my council members to read it because most of them had not until I brought that up. And so, you know, you need to know that we're there and we'll have your backs. We can't have your backs if you don't speak up if there's something wrong. We're trusting what you're telling us, that there's not something wrong, so go out and prove it.
Diane, you have a nice way of putting things, and I appreciate that very much. Speaking of the phones, raise your hand if you guys want these phones that we've been hearing about. Unfortunately, it was a casualty of some fallout. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And if any of you have a problem, please don't call me. Kidding. Yeah, please call Jennifer.
Well, I would like to, first of all, I talked to Jeff this afternoon. He said we need to have this, the council needs to have this discussion. We need to talk this out. And I think what I heard tonight was a very laudable, frank, sometimes not easy discussion. The support of the officers, you know, when I went and talked to them, it wasn't for anybody else's purpose, it was for mine. It was for me to get a collective pulse on what I thought I knew. So they came in, a lot of them came in when they weren't on duty, and they did the same thing they're doing tonight because of what they believe in and who they believe in. So I would echo your thanks, Jack, for them coming in tonight, and I would echo the thanks for the time you spent with me on a Saturday. That probably none of us wanted to be there, but I felt our discussions were very frank. That being said, I want to thank each and every, and I mean every one of you tonight for your discussions. It was not an easy discussion. I'm hopeful that you will ask to go right along. You know, Hawks does drive a little fast, but I'm going with him again. I'm just going to wear a helmet. So, but no, I'm dead serious. Those offers were made to me, and they are extended to you all. And I think the moment you get in a situation with these guys and see what they're dealing with, it just might change. Well, no, it doesn't change. We all think we know. It helps us understand. Let's put it that way. That you guys, that we're all doing the best we can. You know, when I became mayor, I didn't have any police background, and it's not an easy department to just assimilate yourself to. It's you know, you've got to understand what these guys go through. And as I talked to them again, I recognized every minute of their time spent is conflict. They're out on the road. They don't know what's around the corner. You know, I'm always patting them on the back, you know, love their young families, hope that everything continues well for them, everybody's safe. But, you know, I never sat down and looked them in the eye and talked to them for 20, 30 minutes. And it meant a lot. And I think you all have the opportunity to do that. But I'd suggest that you do right along. And I think that might be a good start, again, to just gaining an understanding of what they're doing. So again, to each and every one of you tonight, I appreciate your comments, and I don't know that there's a whole lot more to say.
Mayor, since I made the motion before and it died for lack of second, I believe I'm allowed to bring it up and ask that it be considered again. So could we have that on the agenda for the next meeting to approve the transfer of money so these officers can get their funds, please?
Yeah.
I'm making the request as the person who was not having the motion seconded, and I believe that's legal, and get that on the agenda.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
All right, are there any other
10 days, guys, 10 days.
visitors, questions, or comments? Anybody else have anything to add or say? Yes, sir. Okay.
Is your swimming pool?
You waited all this
leaking again?
time, Judge?
Judge, love him.
We all realize the importance of school resource officers in our schools. They protect our children, our school personnel. They're very important. However, the problem I have is that Warsaw is providing all 5 officers to Warsaw Community Schools. Winona Lake, Wayne Township, Clay Lake, Prairie Plain are not providing any monies for that. Now, the school does compensate, Jeff has told me, for 1 1/2 officers, but it is still not equitable to the city taxpayers. And I would certainly request that the city council consider this, maybe ask the Board of Works to reconsider, see if the school corporation will pay for all of our officers who are working there, but come up to a solution where the whole burden is not upon the city taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you.
So going back to this discussion, do you want me to note that was a consensus of the council not to move forward with?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Anyone else? Well, again, I thank you all for your attendance. It means a lot. Whatever considerations you had tonight, it was a difficult issue, it was a difficult discussion, and I know our guys here appreciate hearing what they heard. We appreciate them participating, and again, I deeply thank the council for having this frank discussion for the betterment of our community. So, is there a motion to adjourn?
So,
Jerry.
You got a second too, obviously.
Ron, second. Everybody else okay with that?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
You got one thing to say?
Hang on.
Judge, you got my, yeah, it is. You've called me before and my